the life force of your bond. A power like light itself, unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, everyone? Running things solo today as Choco tries to figure out his technical difficulties. But welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 174, the one about OSHA violations. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We have Daxon, Addie, Nikki, Dave, Pat. We have James Kenobi and Choco trying to figure things out. We'll see if he can get on. I'm gonna tell him right now. How's it going, everybody? Asian Batgirl Afra says, I'm doing great. I started reading Temptation of the Force today. It's such a treat so far. I'm so far behind now. I can't believe I'm behind. I still have to read Escape from Valo. I still have to finish that. So I was reading Living Force. Still have to read Escape from Valo and Temptation of the Force. Gotta get on that early book club. Yeah, I know. Good reading Cataclysm. Right on. Cataclysm is one of my favorites from Phase 2. But, yeah, it looks like we're back in business, hopefully. Choco? Can't hear you. We hear Choco. We got a choppy Choco, but that's fine.
Yeah, no, we should be good, and we should be catching up soon. Essentially, this is all Yoda's fault.
Why?
Because I have that Yoda backpack, and some kind of way it was tossed and landed on top of my modem. So my modem was being severely overheated.
Oh. Gotcha. Guys, make sure you cool your devices. Yeah, so I started solo. Everyone has been Star Warsing while we Star Wars and talk about Star Wars. So we should probably Star Wars.
Real quick question. Can you hear my AC?
No.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with the cam link?
It just wasn't, my computer wasn't recognizing it at all. And it was a cam link specifically because my computer was recognizing my camera. My camera was turned on, but it was just specifically the cam link. So, I got some ideas. I mean, I've had it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the like 3 cam links over the course of several years because they failed, and that's why I switched to a PCI card. The one I'm using is, of course, the PyLP link, which only has one HDMI in and out, but it serves my purposes. They do have a multiple HDMI in if you want to get that one. I highly recommend it because Elgato doesn't seem to have any of their PCI cards in stock, and Pyle makes some good stuff. Unless we've lost you again.
No, hopefully not. Can you still hear me at least?
I can hear you, but you're frozen now.
Yeah, I'll just try to make sure I always have a good facial expression.
Well, that's good. We have a temporary stand-in for you at least on stream. Mark Daniel on TikTok says, my wife used to work for the housing authority. I asked her during the Acolyte how well she knew OSHA. She didn't get it. Yeah.
It's funny because you'll see people talk about it and the autocorrect or like the
it'll go all caps.
Yeah, it's all caps for OSHA.
Let's see here. Addie says, I played Lego Star Wars today. I swear episode 1 is so hard and tiring. True. Everyone's been playing Star Wars Hunters.
Except for us.
I mean, I haven't downloaded it on my phone like I was telling the chat, and I just haven't played it yet.
Bro, Destiny is so good right now. I can't
Yes.
play it. It would be irresponsible for me to play anything other than Destiny. And if I did, it would have to be Elden Ring. Because we got DLC dropping for that too. And it's a phenomenal game. I have been wanting, though, to... Probably because I hate myself. I've been wanting to stream Ninja Gaiden. But... I still think that's the hardest game.
What's funny is Choco's stand-in picture right now. The way where it's frozen is just him going,
I feel like the Kevin James meme of him just like shrugging. He's like, yeah.
That sounded like Ray Romano right there. No. No, I wanna cook some stromboli. Never mind. No, it's Perjuli, right? Is it?
They all sound similar, but being from Sacramento when I was there, that was just Mike Bibby.
Right. That's not him, is it? His brother.
Yeah, you're gonna need a lot more bass. So.
Was it Brajoli? Brajoli. I think it was Brajoli. That one episode of Everybody Loves Ray. Raymond. Everybody Loves Ray. I mean, Master James Kenobi just got back into Destiny. Right on. Yeah, we've had a lot of things happen this week in general. We've had the premiere of The Acolyte, which we're going to be talking about later in this episode, as well as now we're seeing, and we're back.
I started refreshing, so.
We had the release of the Destiny 2 Final Shape expansion, which me and Choco have been playing like crazy and trying to prepare. Have you done Excision yet?
I don't know what that is.
It's their 12-player activity that's match made that is supposed to be a stand-in for the raid, but for people who can't play the raid.
Yeah, no.
So we should do that later on. Blue Eagle Gamer says, looks like someone had just told him Acolyte is woke. Yeah. now we've come to just a new expression of a frozen Choco in general. Now it's just tell me your opinion, please. I would like to know.
I'm just gonna every now and then just and we'll see. Maybe it'll stop on something good.
That one. Oh man, you're like a horror movie.
No? Okay. Well,
it's crazy how everyone says the Acolyte is woke, yet they don't know the definition of woke. That's pretty much the case, Annie. I mean, you ask any of them to define it, and they'd be like, "That's just this kind of like this importance of like political correctness," and I'm just like, no. But even if it were the case, like the show's not woke. It's just people of color and queer people existing. It's like the show.
but
The show could be
we haven't
about.
even seen any queer people yet. It's just people of color.
Well, I mean, there was mention of her having two mothers, but again, it's just the story. It's you know, them existing again. It's just funny that like there was this tweet of like this person complaining that none of the main Jedi are white. I'm like, okay, so we still have white Jedi, but of course it bothers you because they're not the main Jedi, which I argue, what the hell does that even mean? He probably means the protagonists, but even then, the protagonist in this is Osha and May. I would make the argument that the Jedi themselves are deuteragonists, but
yeah. I mean, it's saying the quiet part out loud. It is understanding the importance of representation without actually understanding it. Because there's like, I mean, what white people are the majority of most. Even in this, the main 9 actors, 3 of them are white. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Just because I forgot to hit record.
None of these people actually. The truth of this is none of the people actually care, right? They don't actually care. We saw rave reviews and things for Star Wars, for X-Men 97. That was the wokest show I've ever seen, right? We've seen the same people give rave reviews to Dune 2, extremely woke, very anti-religion, capitalism, there's white saviorism, there's all these things. They loved it. The common denominator is having people of color in the lead. That's what it always boils down to.
Yep. They also complained that the only white speaking part for the first 2 episodes was a prisoner. Listen. Oh.
As if we didn't have Trinity there.
Right? But they meant men, right?
Yeah, because, well, we know why. I ain't gotta say nothing.
But in an effort to salvage this audio format, I'm gonna start over, guys, because I forgot to hit record. So now it's recording. Welcome to another episode of Dyad and the Force, episode 174, the one about the first 2 episodes of the ACOLYTE. So we were just in the middle of a conversation with our chat about wokeness, and I mean, I have to reiterate what we've been talking about. Like, none of these shows have any woke in it. If we're talking about the pure definition of woke, all they have is just like people of color existing, you know? Like, there's nothing in the show right now that would be outlandishly politically woke. It's just people of color being characters trying to solve a mystery, you know, kind of. That's it. There's nothing in the show that, like, the show didn't start with saying, you know, anything political. There's nothing woke in the show, guys.
Nothing in Star Wars has.
The only politics in Star Wars has been the politics of the universe, in which case, you know, the Senate chamber scenes in the prequels, they're all dealing with their own in-universe politics, but the shows has never been explicitly politically commentating on anything. But we all know why they're actually complaining, and that's because white men aren't in the lead. But I mean, and then like they complain about the white man being in prison. Have you seen Shawshank Redemption? Like, do you have problems with white men in prison? Like, I don't get it.
My question is, then what do you think about all of the black people in media up until now? You know what I mean? Like,
all of the Asians.
Yeah.
Everyone, every POC in media for a long time has just been caricatures or like tokens, you know what I mean? So everyone's just being dumb. I'm just gonna say it. Everyone that has a problem with this show on that level is being dumb. Now we have to reiterate, if you don't like the show, that's completely fine. That's you know, again, this community isn't about conformity. It's having a problem with it based on those things, which are clearly misogynistic, racist, and bigoted. Like, we don't, like, I love Dune. Like, I'm not gonna be like, man, another white man in the lead. Like, this is the thing that happens in pop culture now. We have a bunch of movies and shows that come out. They may be led by a white man, they may be led by a white woman, they might be led by a person of color, male or female. We'll accept it and we'll love those shows. We don't care. The cast isn't in our you know, on the front of our minds all the time. It's them that raise the issue all the time.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't really even notice that. I just notice when something is consistently missing, and that's more about it. So I'm watching shows and realizing, like, oh yeah, these are all women protagonists. I don't know, I didn't think about it. It's not like,
I wonder, hold on, Addie, I don't know who are you, retracting your own messages or is somebody moderating you? I don't know, but I haven't seen anything that is quite warranting of moderation. Nikki says, how dare we exist? Exactly. Blue Eagle Gamer says, the only politics in Acolyte is the Jedi worries over a master being killed by a former Jedi. I mean, I would argue that's not even political. It's just someone's dead. We need to do something about it. I don't know, but we'll talk about the Acolyte here in a little bit. I wanted to start off this episode with, of course, our lore segment. Choco, are you ready for this?
me.
I'm gonna hit you with the surprise, of course. Obi-Wan Kenobi says they mentioned their political enemies. They did, and as I said, in universe politics, they're worried about their political enemies knowing that Jedi are dying, and they can't figure out why. So
I don't know which one you're wanting to talk about right now, but yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, I told you I was going to hit you with a surprise. Now I just have to remember which one I chose. Hold on. Let's see here. Let's see. What did I choose? Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Everything you know about Star Wars is wrong. On this episode, midichlorians is not power level.
Ooh.
Choco, for the longest time, the Versus community, for people who are obsessed about Anakin, the chosen one, their power and being the most powerful, who would win in a fight, we've had to deal with the over 20,000 remark.
It's over 20,000. Yeah. No. So yeah, obviously your midichlorians are not your power level. That's never been the case in Star Wars. This isn't us making it up. It's literally how it's explained when it's introduced. Child Anakin has more midichlorians than Grandmaster Yoda, being 800 years old. If they got in a fight, who would win? Yoda would win.
Anakin, because, for sure. Over 20,000.
Yeah. So it's just it's such a weird like thought process, because there's just been a lot of a lot of people struggle to understand like what midichlorians are or what the point of them were, which obviously George has been kind of wishy-washy on this, but it's never directly been your connection to the Force. It's always been introduced as they are the ones that talk to the Force and they communicate its message to the person using it. And so when it comes to it's how strongly you can hear the message of the Force, but it doesn't necessarily mean that no one else can communicate with the Force, or no one else can command the Force, or that the Force can't communicate its will to you. It's just going to change how loudly and how clearly it's able to do so.
Yep. As I've always said in the past, or, you know, with regards to the Rise of Kylo Ren comic, Luke describes it or tells his students that anyone can open the door to the Force, but some people have the door wide open at the start, and that would be the people who have large amounts of M count, or midichlorians as they say. And I often describe it as there's two people, one has a high midichlorian count and one has the bare minimum. They're both hearing the same will of the Force. They're both sensing the living Force. One is just a shout and the other is a whisper, but with enough training they can train their mind to sense and to hear it much more clearly. And this is evident in the books, where we have a bunch of people who are skilled at certain things and unskilled at other things, and some abilities come naturally to them, like the mind trick, and some abilities like levitation come naturally to other people. But whatever the case may be, it is what they train for and what they are naturally, what natural affinity they have for the Force that kind of dictates what they can and can't do with the Force. So two people having differing midichlorian counts, whether lower or higher, is not going to determine the winner of a fight, right? The winner of a fight is however it's written. What story are they telling? And, you know, as I often point to Hunter x Hunter, the anime, as Biscuit tells Gon, you can be facing a vastly stronger fighter in a fight, but on their worst day versus your best, you can possibly beat them. So it all depends. If like the strongest person in the world is just having a really bad day and they make all of the mistakes in the world, they're gonna lose. So what's the final take on this, Choco?
The final take is it's gonna be two takes.
Go for it.
Sorry. So the way I kind of see it in two different ways. One, the Force is more like music than anything else. Some people can naturally hear rhythm in everything. You tap on a desk, they hear rhythm. They hear a wind chime. They hear music, and they're having an easier time producing or writing or whatever. That doesn't mean that just because you don't hear it, you can't do it. Doesn't mean that person over there can't do it. This person may pick up guitar supernaturally. Doesn't mean this person can't play piano. You know, I primarily play drums, and I had a much easier time picking up drums than I did guitar, which I also can play because I spent time learning. And that's largely how we need to think of it, and stop thinking about it in terms of power level. Right, your midichlorian count mostly equals like your natural affinity towards it. And then the other way I like to look at it is like bandwidth. Right, each midichlorian is like 1 megabit per second. So like the more you have, the faster your connection is. Just because your connection is better than mine, you know, maybe you're getting a gig down, I'm getting 500 meg down. Doesn't mean that you're going to be able to download this thing over here vastly faster than I am. Or maybe I have it cached. Maybe I have saved it locally. Maybe you know what I mean? Like there's so many more options. It may put a limit on your cap. May put a limit on what you can do at your highest high, but for everything else, it doesn't necessarily matter, and that's why Obi-Wan washes Anakin all day long.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
It's not a hot take. The hot take was Anakin lying in the goddamn lava after he got washed by Obi-Wan. That's a hot take.
Anyways, bottom line is midichlorians is not power level. Anakin could certainly lose to Sabine if the circumstances were correct and he made enough mistakes, and Yoda could definitely beat Anakin should the circumstances be what they are. It's all about the writer and what kind of story is being told. If the story requires one to win, they'll win. It doesn't matter how many midichlorians they have. All right. Now, let's move on to the Acolyte. Da, 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 da.
Puppy power!
Shout out to the pod ones on the TikTok side. What happened to Brandon? You know, sometimes Brandon likes to freeze on certain faces. And
everybody, chill.
And we enjoy it. Right now, he's looking at a fly on the far end of his room, and he's eyeing it. He's like, you better get out of here.
Yeah, no, I'm like, that looks delicious.
Yep.
Protein.
Let's catch up on the chat as they were.
Once you go and catch up on the chat, I'm gonna hop out and hop right back in. Give me 1 second.
All right.
The force is strong with this one.
Saint Pat joined the Dyad Squadron. Saint Pat celebrates 35 months of membership for Light and Life. Love this community.
Thank you for that, SH4T, and thank you, Pat, for 35 months in the Dyad Squad. Wow, that's a lot of time. Appreciate your support. Let's catch up on the chat while Choco figures things out. B Matrix says, I don't know a lot about the High Republic. Do we know who those political enemies are? So it's not necessarily that they have, they have very explicit political enemies. It's just that they're kind of being precautious and aware that there are those within, like, the Senate or those within the government that would like to see the Jedi kind of taken down a peg. And so any kind of opportunity that's out there in the public sphere, opportunity for them to take advantage of, like, a murder in the Jedi, stuff like that they're trying to protect against. As you said earlier about POC characters, Addie says, I love POC characters along with LGBTQ plus characters. There's no need to be homophobic or racist when it comes to characters. Agreed. Okay, and then we have the Time Trav says, I don't mind that there aren't white men, and I don't mind that the lead roles are female and black. My boredom with the show premise being geared towards exclusively appeal to the LGBTQ and women power people. I would be fine that the show exists for them, but not at this point when I personally feel the OG Star Wars storytelling has not been advanced since Disney took over. So I've had enough boredom. So,
what's going on?
As Choco rejoins, Time Trav says that the show premise is geared exclusively towards LGBTQ and women. So,
it's not, though.
Yes, I would say it's not. But if you have a specific example of how it is, feel free to leave that in the chat and we'll just address it accordingly. Batosai the Manslayer says, hey guys, good to see you. What's going on, Batosai? I haven't seen you in a while, but welcome back.
Batosai.
David Zanato says, every time Choco freezes, it looks like he heard something he's exasperated with. The last one was like the Kurt Angle stare.
Well, I think I'll be back now. And I should be working smooth. Yeah. Look at it. Look at me move.
Okay. We're getting a steady 60 frames. All right. Batosai says that's why lightsaber duels depends a lot of emotional stability, so not be out of balance and lose that connection with the force that allows you to see future moves in combat at high speeds. Correct, you know.
When Star Wars is doing its thing correctly, your lightsaber battles, your action scenes are a clashing of ideologies, and they are a part of the storytelling. You know, I have a question for you though, because what we've seen now in the Acolyte, we've seen May begins all the conflict without a weapon, which I think is a smart move because it means that the Jedi are going to start out by underestimating her. But you'll also notice that during the fight, she always seems to try and disarm them. She always tries to grab the lightsaber. Now, I'm curious. Is this a Chekhov's gun? Is she gonna get Soul's lightsaber, or even I mean, could be anyone's lightsaber? And are we gonna see live action bleeding of a kyber crystal? Is that why she's trying to get it?
I think that's the case. Listen, you know, it goes back to the Vader comics when Sidious says the Sith aren't given lightsabers, they're taken. So, and I think this might be the underlying philosophy around, you know, around the no weapons policy, because Vader had to fight Kirak without a lightsaber, with just like an electro sword. Got wrecked. So he had to do what May did, which was collateral damage. You know, she had to threaten the life of an innocent, and you know, of course the Jedi are going to prioritize that life over their own, and that's why you know, Indara suffered the fate that she did. But certainly,
I did love, for the brief moment though, we got to see the child, the bartender's child, get spared. So that's instantly should signal to anyone in any story that at this point in time that character is considered redeemable. Conflicted. There's still very much good in them, right? And it's always when they start attacking children or animals that you know that person is trash.
Yeah. Dirty Red in TikTok says, if that were the case, why didn't she take Trinity's lightsaber or Indara's lightsaber?
She tried to several times. Now,
I think
she's trying to take it in it looks like you're trying to take it in combat, not off of a corpse.
Also, I think she realized that she also had defeated her with a weapon. Right?
That might be it as well.
Again, her whole purpose is to defeat the Jedi without a weapon, but also she's operating on her own kind of agenda also. Because I don't think the Darksider cares at all about these 4 Jedi that were stationed on Brendok 16 years ago. I think that's entirely her prerogative, and so the people she's killing, she's not necessarily going there for the sole purpose of the Darksiders' agenda. And I think she's going to try to get their weapons, but right now it seems Indara and Torben are just good enough dead. so she doesn't care.
And of course that's the whole purpose of this show, right? It's a mystery show. Leslie Hadley has been very clear that she wanted to show the cracks in the Jedi Order, what led them to be who they were at the prequels, and to find out what the Sith were doing, right? We heard in the prequels, she specifically mentions the line that Ki-Adi-Mundi says that the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years, which we know is not true. So what were they doing? That's what she wanted to tell, and that's what has been shown and explained to us. Any idea that this has been solely or primarily or even directly marketed at women or queer people is false. If you look at any marketing material or anything, the only reason you would think that is if you consume copious amounts of, you know,
that content.
Typically right-leaning podcasts or things like that are explicitly stating that, because that's not in the content and that's not in any of the Lucasfilm marketing. It's not in any of it.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is when interviewers ask them a specific question about how does it feel to be a woman, blah 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 blah, and they answer it. But the project itself, the show itself, the contents within have nothing to do with those messages, right? They're just dealing with this mystery. Those characters are characters. They're not there to be, as I say in one of my videos, slots to fill. They are characters. Addie says in the chat, in my opinion, The Acolyte is a great show, not overly amazing. It feels newer and not over 100 years ago, along with Yord. It's weird to me that he kept on blaming Osha, yet they were friends. So I think that's just naturally his personality, because it was difficult for him to let go of the possibility that she was suspect. But I think when he finds out about the twin sister and sees that Osho wasn't responsible for Torben, he let off on the gas pedal there for Osha.
Also, and just maybe it's my personality, that part I agreed with him, because I feel like there's so much of like you'll see people do crimes or do terrible stuff, and then the people around them are like, he was such a nice kid, you know, or something like that, and you're like, that's cool, he did it though. You know what I mean? Like, what does my feelings say or my emotions say about my relationship with this character? Am I biased towards? But what do the facts and the information say? And follow that. Sure, he was a bit harsh about it, but he did follow the facts, and the facts led him to the truth. She didn't do it.
But Tosai says, right, Choco, like Riva, she had a soft spot for children despite other violent actions, but it means May and Riva are not totally consumed by the dark side like a true Sith is.
Yeah, I love that moment when Riva realizes that in order to defeat the evil she hates, she would have to become the evil she hates, and was ultimately unable to go through with it because that doesn't honor what her friends lost. If she's actually doing things for them, this is not the path to walk down, and she turns her back on it. I'm curious if what type of like catharsis we're gonna get from May. I just need to know what happened back then. I believe this will end with both sisters leaving both institutions and going off to do their own thing.
Yeah. Blue Eagle Gamer says, from what we kind of learned from his perspective, he should be untrusting at the start. That's true. I mean, again, just like the shades of Ahsoka trial, with all of the information he has, Osha was the one. Like, even during their interrogation, so the person that survives is like, that's her. It's just, you know. So he's kind of has to operate on that level of information until he confirms it in Oleg. So Olega, sorry, Oleg.
What did you Pep, what did you think about the cavalier nature in which the mind trick was being used compared to how, you know, Elzar Mann was pretty cavalier with it, but it was really frowned upon earlier in the High Republic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a product of his master. You know, do we know who his master is?
Not at this time, no.
It could be just down the line, you know, just Elzar to...
It's down Elzar's line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just keeps on hey, listen, I know they frown on mind tricks, but you know, it could be helpful sometimes. And Yord's like, right, okay, got it, you know. And he's for all of his like Boy Scout eager beaver like mentality, it actually makes sense that if his master taught him to that it was okay to use it in that way, then he would use it that way, you know.
And he's a good character. I joke around and I say Yord is trash sometimes, but you know, the way he behaves and the way Jackie behaves as soon as she finds out that he's going along with him makes sense. Like she's like, him, you know, like he's good, he knows what he's doing, he did become a knight, you know, but he just has a stick so far up his butt that he can't bend over, you know. And you know, we while it's annoying, we get to see it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the variety we get within the Jedi, though.
The Force is strong with this one.
Joined the Dyad Squadron, celebrates 18 months of membership. Do you all have a prediction of what the 4 Jedi did to warrant May's revenge?
Thank you for being a member of the Dyad Squadron for 18 months, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do we have a prediction of what the 4 Jedi did to warrant May's revenge? So I don't have a solid prediction. I do have an inkling of an idea, in which case it involves the Darksider. Because for all of the stories we read of the Jedi, they've never truly done anything intentionally evil or intentionally bad. It's always the circumstance of being driven to a corner or having to make a tough decision. You know, with Master Torben saying we thought we were doing the right thing, I feel like there was some kind of nudge from some external source that was making them believe that thing was the right thing to do. Now we have to consider what that thing is, right? Because we still don't know what that thing is. We have 2 versions of events. One version is that May started the fire and everyone died, including her. And then another version of events that the Jedi did something and Osha died. So, like the clearest prediction I can think of is that a fire broke out and the Jedi had to do something to contain it or something. And in May's perspective, it looked like they were like starting it. And because I'm also considering Soul and what he says, I wanted to save you both. And I'm trying to reconcile with the version of events that has the Jedi doing something and the version of events that of Soul being in a position to save people and saving Osha. So I'm racking my brain around this. Choco, if you have anything.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm going with it is that back in the day, you know, they were all stationed at that outpost, meaning this wasn't like a random visit. They knew them. They kind of watched those kids grow up. Now on this specific, you know, time thing that happened. Let's see, the Darksider used something, and this Darksider was the Master, and had somehow controlled Corbin to attack. And the Jedi had to fight amongst themselves to stop Corbin from doing something stupid. Everyone else had to flee. While fleeing, maybe May knocked something down, and that did start the fire. And that is what ruined their lives. You know, it could be very well be something where they're both in a hut or something where they live, and the roof in between them collapses. So they've each watched each other die, but the Jedi on one side were able to save her. As soon as Corbin comes back or comes to from whatever technique was used on him, he sees the destruction that was wrought, that at its core began with him. And the Jedi cover it up because they don't feel like it was his fault. He shouldn't be punished for this, should any of them. But people died. What do we do? That's where I'm going with it.
So he takes the Barash vow.
He takes the Barash vow. So the only two people... I think what happens is Indara is capable of, messing with people's minds or memories, but would never do it maliciously because she's a Jedi. So she asks each person what they want. I think Saul gets his mind erased from the event because he is shaken from it. They decide it's in Osha's best interest. It doesn't happen to me. I think Corbin doesn't do it either, or Corbin does it, and then at some point in time, 10 years prior, something jogs his memory of it, and he can't deal with it anymore. Takes a Barish vow, and I think ultimately Corbin is the one who turns to the dark side, and I think he is that dark sider, and he at this point in time is the apprentice to someone.
Interesting. Yeah,
and he faked his own death.
I'm looking at some of the footage we had in the trailer too, because there's a moment in the trailer where Torbin's eyes go black.
Torben, I keep calling him Corbin, like Corbin Dallas on.
But Torbin's eyes go black, and he's surrounded by Mother Anasaya's congregation. So we also have to so we have the Darksider, and then we have, I'm just gonna for lack of a better name right now, we have the Path of the Open Hand. So back then, we're dealing with the jet. There's a fire. How it starts, we don't know. Whether it was May or not.
It's gonna be May.
But we have an incident where the Jedi are blamed for it, and the Jedi were the saviors of it. And we have a Darksider, and we have the Path of the Open Hand. And I feel like going off of the information I have with the Path of the Open Hand, I feel like they because their surname is Anasaya, and the Path of the Open Hand leader is Mother Anasaya. I feel like the fire started, it was an accident, and Torbin did something. I know Torbin did something, but the fire was an accident. Soul saved Osha, took her in. They thought May was dead. May is found by Anasaya in the Path of the Open Hand and teaches her that because the Jedi used the Force to try to save the family, everyone died. Because the Force should be free, and every use of the Force has a price. Which is what they teach, right? They teach that they teach that the Force will always exact a cost by a Jedi lifting of a leaf in the, oh no, don't do that, because now we're just going to pay the price in the future. And so May is found by the Path, is taught all of these things, and so she blames the Jedi for using the Force. And that's when we get to the line, it's not about power, it's about who should be allowed to use it. And I think Torbin has his own kind of mistake to answer for, which is why he feels guilt. But if May grows up thinking that the Jedi's use of the Force resulted in that fire, then she would blame them. She would, much like Arda does, she would blame them for whatever bad happened in response to them using the Force. I think, I didn't think about this before now, but
that'd be, you're cooking for sure. That would be a great way to tie it back to, the High Republic, which is an important part of it. And of course you could have it so that these two girls find out that they're both Force sensitive around the same time. And then it's, well, what do we do with these kids? Like, no, you should never do that. No, you should never use the Force. Maybe one of them, maybe Osha does want to try to use the Force, and May doesn't, or vice versa. That's how I would. Okay, all right. So Osha doesn't want to use the Force because she's listening to what the mothers are telling her. By the way, when they said mothers, I didn't assume she had two mothers. I assumed it was the mothers because it's a matriarchal society. But yeah. May does want to use the Force and does use it, and she starts the fire by knocking something over by trying to levitate it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Great Chicago Fire.
So it's interesting to think about what the mystery will reveal itself to be, but I'm kind of liking, because we still have to consider Mother Anastasia and what her role is in the story, and we have yet to meet them. We have yet to go back in time and see exactly what happens, but we know for sure that it's a Rashomon style story, and there's conflicting narratives, and we just gotta find out who's the most unreliable of unreliable narrators, which is everybody so far. But I have a good confidence in what I just came up with, because May wants to kill these 4 Jedi specifically, right? And isn't really going on a rampage killing everyone. Yeah. So and it feels like she blames those 4 for using the Force, and like the consequences of the fire are their fault.
And I like my idea in tangents with yours of, if May was the kid who wanted to use the Force, maybe she had a more of a natural affinity for it than Osha did, but Osha ends up being the one who's taken and trained. So when they're like, there's no way May could do this, she's not, like, Osha's the one with all the training, but maybe Osha isn't as naturally gifted as May, and she knows that.
Yeah,
that'd give it an interesting rivalry aspect that I would like.
So catching back up with the chat, the Time Trav says, maybe you guys are right. I'm just being influenced by the toxic fans too much, but I honestly do think the premise of the show sounds terribly boring, and I expect better from Lucasfilm. I still need some specifics here. Like, what because you started out saying that the premise of the show was geared towards appealing to the queer community and women, but now you're saying the premise of the show sounds terribly boring. So I'm just kind of wondering what you think the premise of the show is and what makes it terribly boring. Also, I would like to know if you've watched it, because that's important.
Well, that being said, if did you find the premise boring? That's fine. That's fair, and go with that. I'm a big proponent towards, if you're not interested, don't watch it. I, on the other hand, think of, like, for instance, the Obi-Wan book, Kenobi, from John Jackson Miller. Fantastic book, and it's basically Obi-Wan does nothing in the desert, and things pick up from there. So I happen to know that a premise is just a premise. Like, the premise isn't the story. The premise is a framework for a story, and how the story is told is what makes it, good or not. And if you watch something like Russian Dolls, which is something else from Leslie Headland, she's able to hook people with her writing. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Like, I could tell you right now, okay, I have an idea for a show. The premise is a coming of age tale for a Jedi. That sounds boring as hell. But you can write a really interesting story about what that Jedi Padawan experiences, the lessons they learn, and the relationships they make and lose. It's the story itself that really takes the premise and kind of makes it what it is. A lot of premises on their own sound really boring.
And this, in my humble opinion, isn't one of them. This premise is a bunch of Jedi are being murdered, and a master and his former student go on a mystery seeking, go try to unravel the mystery. That sounds intriguing to me personally.
It does sound interesting.
But I'm interested in mysteries. And I think the next thing I want to see in Star Wars is a heist. I want a Star Wars heist.
We got it in Solo, didn't we?
Sort of.
It wasn't like Ocean's Heist type of.
It wasn't
heist,
a heist so much as it was a robbery. You know what I mean?
Let's see here. Batosai says, I have a question for you guys. What's your take on why Ben Kenobi argues in favor of Luke killing Vader, destroying the Sith, but in the show he spares Vader and does what he feels right, which is what he advises to Luke when he offers to join him for the mission to Alderaan? How do you reconcile that apparent contradiction? I don't think it's a contradiction. I think it's just a natural progression of narrative. Kenobi thought that Vader was dead, and he finds out, or not Vader, he thought that Anakin was dead, and then realizes that he's alive. And he tries to reach out to his friend for the last time in that fight, and decides that he truly is dead, and he walks away. I don't think Obi-Wan ever had it in him to kill Anakin. That's why he left them. He left him to die. He didn't want to kill him. And in this case, from the Kenobi show, it's the same thing. He didn't have it in him.
For me, I reconcile it as the same reason that your parents will tell you to do things that they've never done themselves.
True.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, Star Wars is full of people saying one thing and doing another, which is just true of real life, and especially between Obi-Wan and Anakin. So, and I'll probably get flack for this, but there's a misnomer that the Jedi are wrong for being wary of attachment, and that's not true. And then he has such a great attachment to his former Padawan that he can't bring himself to kill him, even at the risk of the galaxy. And I think that is a failing of Obi-Wan's.
Yeah. ND Wise Guy says, what are your guys' thoughts on the very different reactions between Yord and Sol when confronting May? Felt like a clear delineation between the High Republic approach and the prequels approach. I think that Sol represents what the Jedi should be, and Yord represents what the Jedi shouldn't do. Even though Yord is very by the book, I think Sol confronting May with the desire to have a dialogue is the Jedi way, right? Never only for knowledge and defense, never for attack. And so when May is attacking Sol unarmed with just kind of pugilism, Sol is just dodging things, and he's just trying to, like, who trained you? He's trying to figure out what's going on with her. And although for normal people that's pretty dangerous, but for a Jedi they can afford to kind of like rabble rouse a little bit and try to get to the bottom of things. And Yord kind of pulling his saber out on Osha when they were on Karlak, and then pulling out his lightsaber on May. It's Elzar. It's Elzar's teaching all over again.
Yeah, my mind goes straight to The Living Force, John Jackson Miller, just because I really love that book. But in that book, we have a bunch of gangs, criminal organizations coming together. They're doing something really bad, right? And they're the bad guys, right? Therefore, the Jedi need to take them down, right? Right? Well, it's not as clear cut as that, because they end up, one of the people who was doing this was only doing it because they needed money because of one of their parents was in a tough spot. That person ends up, and so Yoda shows that person, kindness, because they were willing to work with them. We have Seishi Tin has this chick. She's just like, she's flirting with him, and she's into into him. Criminal, also a criminal. But what the Jedi were there to do was to stop that bad thing from happening, and to bring to justice, the people in charge of it. But there's a difference between that, that's what I think is the big difference is we have a master who's trying to get to the bottom of this to figure out what the solution is, and then we have Yord who's like, that's a bad person, get him. And they're like, but there's more happening than just this. We need to find out what that is.
It's just like their first interaction, where Soul shows up and Yord is steaming his clothes, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I should have brought Osha in myself, and I will redeem myself. And Soul's just like, we leave in 5 minutes.
Ain't that deep, bruh.
But I also think that this also shows a side of the Jedi that often a lot of people misunderstand or mistake the Jedi for a monolith. They say that the Jedi are dogmatic, or they teach dogma and they indoctrinate, but throughout all of Star Wars, all we've seen were Jedi who act and think differently from each other. Our first example is Qui-Gon. Then our Clone Wars examples are Quinlan Voss. And
well, I mean, Obi-Wan as well. We know Obi-Wan is a lot looser than Yord is, but if you read early Obi-Wan, that's exactly how he was. Yeah. Early Obi-Wan was probably worse.
See, the thing is, you know, when you read Master and Apprentice and you find out that they grouped Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon was so like maverick that it would cause Obi-Wan to go by the book. And so when Obi-Wan is with like Satine and he's by himself or whatever and he's operating alone, he's very loosey-goosey, and then you throw him in as the master of Anakin and he, again, very roguish, very maverick, and has a bunch of bravado. He falls back into his by the book nature. Anakin, stop, you know? And so what my point is by talking about this is that a lot of the Jedi that we see are often products of their own masters, and they're not all the same. So we have like a compassionate Jedi who will take care of somebody, and then we'll have like Luminara and Dooley who like sees two sisters, you know, lose their parents and be like, the Force is with them, do not mourn them, and then just like runs off. So very much so, every single Jedi represents their individual kind of idiosyncrasies. And there's never a moment in Star Wars where we see the Jedi just acting all the same like robots and spitting out the same words, but like you guys said, being indoctrinated.
I had someone in my comments yesterday, you know, say that Qui-Gon is the way that every Jedi is supposed to be, and I have to like No. Like there's gonna be Jedi who, listen, Jocasta Nu kind of sucks, but the way she sucks, I think makes her probably a damn good librarian. You know what I mean? And it's in an organization, you need certain people to do different things and to act in different functions, and you can't have, it's like the body. You can't have everyone be a hand, because if your body was all hands, then like you need you need
All
different
hands
types.
on the
And that's
body.
that's why personally I look at the combination of Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, and Yoda as being like a perfect trifecta of different styles and things, so that nothing really would get missed. Because you do have to have the view, the 10,000 foot view, but Qui-Gon challenges them to don't forget about the trees when you're looking at the forest, because they need to be reminded of that. Qui-Gon wouldn't be good at looking at the forests, and some of them wouldn't be good at looking at the individual trees, but I feel like that's a natural ebb and flow that's needed.
And Yoda is the Tootsie Roll owl. You'll have Mace, who's very kind of by the book and very disciplined, and like you said, Qui-Gon, and like you said, Qui-Gon is like, is there to kind of not let them miss the finer details in life, the Living Force is such a good book, but then Yoda is there. He's just like 1, 2, 3 3. He's aloof. He's there to be like, hard to see the dark side is. And then Mace is like, but I don't think they'd be back without us knowing. It's like, but who knows? And then Qui-Gon is like, it must be this because of my evidence. And then, though they are the perfect trifecta. It's like, the guy that's like attuned to just like, he's the naturalist. Mace is like the institutionalist, and Yoda is institutionalized. So he's just like, Anyways, back to Acolyte. I think that and
I think Obi-Wan represents all three very well.
Yeah, at different times too.
Yeah.
We can't forget that Yoda chews on Guymer and and gets high off his stick. But the last thing I want to mention about the Acolyte is Darth Teeth, or Darth Fangs.
Darth Nobu.
I watched the video with Kenny, or Darthman86. He was, came out with it and said Chimere is Lord Teeth. And in our review, that's something that I kind of floated, and I'm starting to see more and more of. And I just fall back on he fought off May. Like, he's introduced as the guy that's like overslept, right? He's still sleeping, and May has to wake him up, and he's all kind of like stumbling and fumbling, and then he makes her a poison, and then like she attacks him because she thinks that he's given her up, and he just like puts her against the wall and just like traps her, and then you're like, holy crap. So there's something more to Lord Teeth or Chimere that we have yet to see. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any other theories as to who Lord Teeth can be? And is his name Lord Teeth now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Lord Teeth is Torben, personally, but there is a lot more to Chimere that meets the eye. As soon as we met him, that was actually my first thought, is that's him, and he's just hidden his identity. He takes off his mask and then runs out the door and then into the other door, and it's just like, oh, you just missed him. Oh man, he just went to the bathroom. You're like, okay, well, we can hang out for a bit, but I have to go move my car. And he goes back,
Yeah.
and then Lord Teeth walks in the other door. No, I can. That was my original thought, and the only thing I have against it is I think it's too easy, but that's not saying much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not an actual reason. So I think it would be very good. Also, one of the things that the cast members mentioned, because specifically Daphne Keene and what's his name? By the book dude. They specifically talked. Yeah. I keep wanting to say Andre Bennett, but that's not his name.
Charlie Barnett.
Charlie Barnett. Yes, thank you. They talked about specifically how good Manny Jacinto like naturally is and gifted that he is at stunts, and how much they had to work and train, and he could just do all of this stuff. And so I'm like, what stunts is he doing? What does that mean? I think that means something's going on. So I'm kind of operating on Torben is the apprentice, brought on him, but he also sees a lot of potential in May, and so he's having these two pseudo apprentices rise up, because he's going to want one of them to go with him to try and take down his master when the time arises. And that way we get the Acolyte, and the Acolyte is not Sith, but they are an Acolyte.
All right, catching up with the chat. Time Trav says, I watched Russian Doll when it aired and really enjoyed it. Its premise was intriguing to me. A woman in the city's Groundhog Day. Well written, and lots of DEI too that felt natural in that setting. Let's see here. Oh, you guys are talking about casting Afra. Listen. Cupco says Anna Savai is a good pick. So is Chloe Bennett. I'm going to stick with Chloe Bennett on this, because I'm saving Anna Savai for Satil Shan. And she's destined to play her.
Yeah, I feel like I need Afra to be more bouncy, or bubbly. No, not. I mean, personality wise, like, it
works both ways.
Now I regret everything. But you know how like this person will walk with a jaunt, with a bounce in their step, because they're loose and they're funny and they're sarcastic and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Not that Anna Sawai can't do that, but I picture her as an ethereal princess who, when she walks, you can't tell that her feet are touching the ground. She looks like she's just floating across the room. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I picture her. But that's only in my head. But
Yeah, but
both are good.
she's
picks.
not Mariko all the time. Have you watched Monarch?
No, I haven't watched Monarch, but
She's pretty great in that.
not because of it's funny, not just because of Mariko, but I just think has such a classic beauty to her that is I like that view of her is why she got cast as Mariko, as her, not the other way around.
Interesting. Mark Daniel Martinez on TikTok said Chloe Bennett for Darth Talon. Hey, if we need more bounce. Darth Teeth and Chimere are a reversed Clark Kent. Is it reversed? No, Chimere is his
So he's just Batman.
pretty much.
We reverse Clark Kent as Batman.
Master James Kenobi says, I've ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Teeth the Biter? He couldn't find a dentist. The dark side doesn't have dental. Yeah, the dark side is just $10.99.
Darkseid has all cookies and no dental. bro.
The dark side is 1099 work and requires on-site.
But you can't apply for Cobra. So
Cupco says Kymir's defending against May is such a blink and miss it kind of moment. I didn't really catch how effortlessly he did it on the first watch. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've enjoyed about the show is they are I can't wait to rewatch it upon completion, because like they've put a lot of thought into this stuff, you know what I mean? Like you have when she has the vision with, you know, the little girl running and it's herself, like that little kid doesn't leave any prints on the ground when they're running, you know, or just like I'm just like there's a bunch of like really little small details that were included that are clues to like, oh, you know, when you actually look at them, May and Osha don't actually have the same hair. It's similar, but you can tell it apart, you know, if you pay attention.
There's another small detail that goes with Chimere being Darth Teeth. And it's something that I was talking about earlier with the TikTok crowd in the pre-show. Don't zap my mind like you Jedi do. Now, if we read Living Force, and if we read the High Republic books, the sentiment around Jedi is that they are this kind of like they're this kind of mysterious entity, and they don't know what they can do. Like they just look at them as magicians or sorcerers or whatever. And the sentiment in the Living Force is like not a lot of people are privy to what the Jedi can actually do. Like you have those people who were hijacking
and myths and stuff, but
yeah, they were hijacking them, the ship, and the Jedi show up and they're like, Jedi, what can you like? I forget what they said, but they were putting on airs. They were talking about the things that they would do to them, and they were like, you can do that? Like, so when Chimere says that, it seems to me that it's more than just general knowledge of the Jedi.
Absolutely.
And that he knows their
delivery.
techniques.
The delivery of that line also was a, hey, here's Chekhov's gun. Just FYI.
Yeah.
You know, I put this on the PowerPoint presentation, so you should write it in your notes for the test.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
So I feel like whoever he is, whether he's Darth Teeth or he's apprentice or something, he knows about the Jedi techniques a lot more so than someone who just kind of makes poisons for May. You know what I mean? And of course, that coupled with his ability to defend himself, yeah, it's clearly the wolf in sheep's clothing. He is Palpatine, like just kind of hiding in plain sight.
Or it's Torben, and Torben's the one who recruited him, and Torben's the one who told him what Jedi can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to officially? No. Would you like to officially put a bet down on it being, it is Torben, or it is, Chimere?
I can't put a definitive finger down.
We can call it off if. Well, no.
The thing is, I do believe Torben, because in our review, this is one of my theories. I do believe that Torben, through his 10-year isolation, through this quote unquote Barash vow, that he has been astral projecting into someone else and being someone else. So there's a possibility that Chimere is is the apprentice. There's a possibility he's the master, and Torben is projecting into him while he's been on this 10-year kind of silence. But also it makes sense because after Torben willingly takes his life is when Chimere is able to fight off May. And so there's oh gosh, I don't know where to put my chips on. Black, red, a number. There's so many. It's a roulette of possibilities. Also, another possibility is that we're just all completely wrong.
Yeah. and so that's one thing I want to introduce is back into the dyad that either another, maybe not the one chip challenge, but maybe one of our action figures or something that we can put up.
What about a spicy noodle challenge? That stuff is not as because I feel like what I hear from the one chip challenge is that it's just very chemically.
Oh yeah, it tastes like if you mix hot sauce with pine sol and put it on a chip.
But I feel like we would be able to do bulldog. I think spicy noodles is reasonable.
Also, for anyone here, is anyone interested in winning a lightsaber lamp? Like this plugs in. This is Luke's lightsaber.
It's a lamp.
I mean, so it's the Skywalker saber. It says Luke's lightsaber on it, but it's the Skywalker saber.
Let us know in the chat. And if you want to win it, we'll think of something to do. But just to recap for Kenny, who just joined, sorry I'm way too late to the live, but let's go Hunters. We're mulling over 3 possibilities now. Either Chimere is the apprentice, Chimere is the master, or Torben is the master. No, 4. Or Torben is the master who has been projecting into Chimere for the last 10 years that he's been isolated. There's 4 possibilities. I think the most likely scenario that I would probably be willing to bet on for a spicy noodle challenge is Chimere is the master.
Okay.
What are you betting on? And if we're both this is because there's 4 possibilities, this isn't like a versus type of bet. So if we're both wrong, we're both gonna do the spicy noodle challenge.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, I'm saying Torben's death was a red herring. Torben is the Sith we're looking for. Now, whether or not he represents the apprentice or the master in that relationship, that is the real question. But I'm gonna say that he is the apprentice. But I'll accept either. My bet is that Torben is actually a Darksider who's been masquerading as a Jedi. That's what my bet is.
Okay. And mine is simply that Chimere is the master. Whenever he's not on the coast of the Philippines wielding his lightsaber, he's parading as Chimere.
Short lightsabers.
I would love that.
Which may be how Jackie fights, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Dex Nello says Darth Teeth is a gifted and special youngster that lost everything and turned to the dark side after finding ancient lore. He knows a lot about the Sith, but is not one. That also could be the case. I know that there's a lot of pretender conversations going around about this. He does say peace is a lie, but pretenders can also shout. I mean, like, you could have somebody be like, I am, like Kumail Nanjiani, I am a Jedi.
I mean, also him saying peace is a lie is, yes, it's part of the Sith code, but it is also just antithetical to the Jedi code. So in order to end up at peace is a lie, all you would have to know is the Jedi code.
True.
And you could easily end up there on your own.
Chimeras Master Darth Teeth the Biter is where I'm sitting until I'm proven wrong. Awesome, Master James Kenobi.
Master
That's 2 on us.
Baby Shark. Do.
Ooh, Cubco says, I think Chimera is possible, but Torben is 0% chance. Ouch.
Ooh.
Daxon says, can't be Torben. How would a Sith or Darkstar to be able to meditate like that? To be aligned in the dark side, you can't find that kind of peace. Well, we're not talking about peace. He just kind of put his body into stasis, which plenty of Sith have done. Chimera is a Sith possessed person. The real Sith is someone from SWTOR. Who? Who from SWTOR, Kenny?
That's Canderous.
Listen. Since we're in the hot take segment for the next 5 or 10 minutes before we wrap things up, here's my hot take. Jecki is like that in the neutral, right? She's very witty, very kind of like crass, I guess I would say. But when she fights, she gotta take out 2 lightsabers and fight like X-23. I don't know if that's a hot take, but
I wouldn't call it a hot take because, I mean, according to Leslie Headland, the literal reason she was cast was because Leslie was like, "What if we gave X-23 lightsabers?"
yeah,
which I actually think is really cool and funny, just to have Leslie just be like a nerd and a fan, and like finally given the power to, like, I feel like she's doing what any of us would do in this situation of like, these are the things I like, we're putting it on.
pretty much. I mean, I've enjoyed her enthusiasm for just Star Wars in general overall.
And if anyone's gonna put Keanu Reeves in Star Wars, it'd be her. But I just know she's like Jedi Trinity, of course. That's what we're gonna do. We don't have Keanu Reeves budget right now, but you know,
I think they
plus will. They will. I mean, in a film, but like Carrie-Anne Moss was already part of the family due to Jessica Jones and the Netflix universe.
I think Chimera is the apprentice and the master is Tenebris. Leslie seems to be a fan of EU, and there's no reason of using Tenebris. I think even canon BC, is even canon because of the Rise of Skywalker, Name of a Legion. Yeah, that's right. Tenebris is canon in name, but I don't think he's too. The time period doesn't match.
No, the time period. I mean, we don't know enough about his age or how long-lived the species is, but I do think he would be, because Plagueis would be like 10 to 15. Oh, 0 to 15 max.
What do you mean?
And so Tenebris could be around in this.
Do we know how
this
old?
era.
Do we know how old Plagueis is by the Phantom Menace?
We don't know exactly, but it's from the book. It's rumored to be somewhere just above 100 115.
Could be. Can't really tell for sure. I honestly don't want it to be Tenebris. But you're right, Leslie does have a love for legends. I think in general, from 132 to 30, Palpatine was born in 80, right? Or 80 BBY? Is that right?
Yeah. Or what if it's also an
84.
Orochimaru thing? Remember how Orochimaru would just randomly like find a random person and promise them power and being like, if you want true power. I can't sound like him, but if you want true power, go to this location and do this and you'll find this. And then that one guy turns himself into a Tony the Tiger and starts fighting, but it was just like a random incomplete thing, and so he ends up dying from it because Orochimaru is just a dick and he doesn't actually care. What if this is that, where maybe it is Tenebris behind the scenes, but none of these people are ever actually connected to him, and he's just like has tests set up in all these different places, and hopefully whoever makes it to the top of the bracket of these tests will be interesting enough.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
because
be
actually could be around doing the
possibilities.
exact same type of stuff.
I also can't sound like Orochimaru unless I speak Japanese. Because
Uchiha Sasuke. Yeah, all you can do is say names as him. Dyad.
Sarutobi Sensei. It's always Sarutobi Sensei. Tsunade. Much like everyone else. Sasuke! Anyways, Acolyte hot take from Daxon. May will kill Osha to seal herself into the dark side. This show won't end the season on a happy note. It's also a possibility. But runs totally against Choco's outlook of them being together forever.
Listen, I want I want the sisters to use their love for one another to heal, and then they open up their own little like detective agency on a Coruscant, and they solve mysteries, and that's what the later seasons are. There's 2 Force sensitive sisters. One of them steeped in the dark side and murderous, and is trying to reform her ways. The other one is a mechanic, former Jedi, and they just have adventures through space.
Yeah. Mark Daniel Martinez says, don't Moon have a lifespan of over 100 years? Nothing canonically.
Not canonically, but Plague doesn't die of natural causes, so that's not totally relevant. But I don't know what their lifespan is.
Batosai says, what do you think about Mary Allen's living over 100 years? Seems that every alien lives hundreds of years except humans. Not every alien.
Not so. And we've actually seen species, and I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but there's species that live shorter lives than humans as well. And I think that gives a well-roundedness to the galaxy, where you can have, Mary Allens that can live, that when Force sensitive can live to be 250, and then you have whatever the hell Maz Kanata is.
Togrutas also physiologically have normal lifespans, except when they're Force sensitive. Kiarimundi has a normal lifespan. Saurians have a normal lifespan. Not all aliens are long-lived. It's just kind of these really weird ones like Oppo and Yariel. Yoda.
But it would make
species.
sense that the longest living ones would end up like on the council together because they just keep getting promoted. It's kind of like how at most companies, the old people just refuse to retire now.
St. Pat says, not so hot take. As much as I hate to speak it into existence, I think May is going to kill Soul. Star Wars seems to like to kill my Qui-Gon like characters. Pat, have some faith. I don't think Soul is dying. That's another thing I'm going to bet on.
Also, Pat, hopefully if you get a chance, let's chat later.
Would you also like to go in on this? Okay. So for the spicy noodle challenge, Kaimir is the master and Soul lives.
Okay, what if Chimera is the master but Soul does not live?
So are you just going? You're just going the opposite route instead of
No.
original-
I'm asking what happens. Do you eat if you're wrong on both accounts? Do you eat 2 noodle challenges? If you're
No, that's mine. That's my entire bet. So both have to be true. If one of them is wrong, I still eat the noodles. Whichever one is wrong, I eat the noodles.
I mean, I'm in agreement that he lives.
So I guess that's just a moot
So
point then.
I can't make that bet. Otherwise,
We'll just stick to our original bet. All right. It seems like we are just about done with this episode of Dyad in the Force. We've exhausted all conversation about the Acolyte's first 2 episodes, but the larger mystery still remains, and we cannot wait for the next episode next week. The show so far, it's off to a good start. I'll say it. Any other thoughts, Choco?
No, just I'm along for the ride. You know, I'm in. But don't feel the need to force yourself. If you're not in, you're not in. And I think the most important thing is that we vote for things to happen with our time, with our attention, and with our money. And if this is not doing it for you, then don't give it any of those things, because giving it any of them, more of it gets made because of it. So I kind of hope you do, but but that being said, for instance, the show Titans, I love DC. I love the Titans team. I love the Teen Titans, and I love the Young Justice team. Hated that show. Hated it. Tried to watch it. Thought it was trash. So I didn't talk about it. I didn't support it, because ultimately, if it continued, then that means that enough people liked it for it to continue, and that's not on me, And so that's what we need to look at Star Wars with, kind of those same eyes. Is if a project is not for me, it's okay that it exists, and the efforts to destroy or thwart the existence of it only has made it more popular, got it in front of more eyes, and only guarantees more get made like it.
In that sense, I want them to keep on doing it, but I'll say this:
much like Anakin's ultimate lesson when he became Vader, he had to let go of his hate, and only then could he pass on peacefully. Let go of your hate.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this in addition to what Choco said: if it's not for you, if it's not something you want to watch, you don't have to watch it. There are folks out there that will reserve judgment until they've watched it, which is another good thing to do, and we encourage it because you may be wrong. But if it's not for you, you don't have to watch it. But also, I would suggest, if it's not for you and you're not going to watch it, like Choco said, don't spend time trying to insert yourself into conversations about it. Don't try to ruin it for other people. You know, there are shows out there that I absolutely hate and people absolutely love. And I would never wish it upon them to lose that show, because it's for them. So whatever Star Wars does from here on out, whether a show is good or bad, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna make my decision on it. But if I don't like it and somebody likes it, I'm gonna let them like it.
Yeah, my little brother, this was like a couple years ago. Little brother let me know, he was gonna go see Taking Back Sunday, the band, which I grew up with. Love Taking Back Sunday, but I don't like any of their new stuff. Right? Tell All Your Friends, fantastic album. Where You Want to Be, fantastic album. Half of Make Damn Sure, I suppose. Don't like him anymore. So I say, hey, go have fun. They're gonna play a lot of their new stuff. I'm not interested in that, so I'm not gonna spend the money. There you go. I'm not going to hop in the car and talk about how much I hate all of their new stuff as we drive there. Sit at the concert being like, this song sucks, man. Why are we here? This is terrible. Like, that just ruins it. There's no point. That's a waste of my time, waste of everything. Sometimes that's what it is. If the band you love stops making music you love, well, listen to the old albums. And if people like the new ones, let them.
Yeah. It's like they say, don't yuck someone else's yum. It really is just a waste of time. Before we wrap things up, 6 in the TikTok side says Choco.
Yo.
Both of your studios and setups are amazing. Dang. I'll let you in on a little secret. Everything past this point on TikTok here, on YouTube here, no, on here. Everything past this point is trash. It's just cluttered mess. And this is intentional. This is intentional framing right here, intentional planning. But we appreciate you, 6. And we appreciate everybody in the chat for tuning in and for watching another episode of Dyad in the Force. We look forward to next week, and if anybody has any desire to appear next week and to talk about the Acolyte episode 3, let us know, because we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in audio and camera. But that'll do it for this episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 174. That's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all the Acolyte.
And Yord Horde, Maze Bay, Soul Train.
OSHA violations.
Get wrecky with Jackie. I don't know.
Oh.